Am I really this dumb? Don't answer that. It's a rhetorical question. Backstory coming up. Hello, I'm Mark, and this is The Country Life with ColumbusMark, where I try to bring you a lighthearted look at life in the country from someone who is trying to figure it out. Before I forget, I hope you will subscribe so you don't miss any videos, like it if you liked it, and share it with your friends. Now let's get on with the story. So this thing you saw me riding on is what I call my tractor. I know you're probably expecting me to have something like a John Deere, a big guy's tractor. But no, this is a little lawnmower that any self-respecting farmer would call it. It is a riding lawnmower. It's made by Snapper. It's pretty nice. I've had it about 13 years. The problem is I'm not great at maintaining any of my equipment, as you probably guessed if you've seen any of my other videos. But it's a pretty nifty little machine. I mean, it goes fast enough, cuts okay. It's got some nice features. Let me show you some of those over here. See if I can turn this thing around. Okay, so here we go. It has a cup holder. Comes in handy for a cup of coffee or something stronger. I don't know what this is, a little accessory compartment. Even has a place to plug in a charger. I don't know what you would use that for. Gas goes here. So that much I know. I mean, I've learned a lot of things about this tractor. I'm not fancy with it or anything. I have learned to be careful. I mean, I heed those warnings. If we can see down here, I mean, it says operating on slopes can be dangerous. See operator's manual. If you cannot back up a hill, do not drive on it. Rotating blades can cut arms off and legs. Stop mower when children are near. No riders, they fall off. Warning. So this is my tractor, and that's where my story begins. So every year when I was working, I would have this debate about whether it was worth it for me to save a few bucks and mow my own grass, or should I hire that out? I mean, I worked Monday through Friday. I commuted 40 miles each way. And so when the weekend got here, it wasn't the thing I particularly wanted to do, even though I had this mower. So I did hire it out. But then I finally retired, and it was time to step up to the plate, I guess, and mow my own grass. Now, we have 10 acres, you might have heard me mention before. About 4 of it's probably woods, and 4 of it's in pasture, and then maybe 2 is grass that has to be mowed. Small part has to be mowed with a push mower, and I've always done that because it's back where the dogs are in the backyard, fenced in, and it's like a landmine out there, if you know what I mean. I have to go clean it up before I even mow. But the part I have to mow with a riding mower is, like I said, about 2 acres. And I figured I could save some money by doing it myself. But every time I think that, something goes wrong. And almost every year, every 2 years, I have to send this mower to get fixed, even though it's, it's 13 years old, and it's not like I'm doing commercial work with it, but things go wrong. And so let me tell you what happened about a few months ago, I guess last season maybe even. I was mowing it. I'd already paid to have it fixed, and I had just a few more mowings to go, when all of a sudden, the motor was purring like a kitten. It was going frontwards and backwards, but I could tell it was not cutting grass. So, in my ever-curious mind of what makes things work and not work, I decided I needed to get off the machine, get on my hands and knees, and look underneath the deck. What I was hoping to find was a stick or dead animal lodged underneath. I figured I could fix that. I wasn't sure how I was going to jack the thing up, and I know this thing weighs a lot, and the only thing I had was a car jack. But I've seen these shade tree mechanics lift up their cars with a couple of jacks and a brick or two and get underneath it. And yes, I could be a real farmer or a rancher or an idiot and try that, but I knew better. So I got on my hands and knees. And by the way, I'm sitting on a stool now, because if I sat on the ground, I would never get up. But then I had no other option. So I got on my hands and knees and in my stomach, and I looked beneath the deck, hoping to find just a simple stick wedged in there or some sort of unfortunate animal. I did not find any animals. You may recognize this from a What Lives in the Barn video. You can check out the link at the end. And I did not find a stick. But what I did find was this very long belt, like a fan belt, but it must have been 8 feet long. And I'm looking at this thing saying, now where does that go? I mean, there are wheels in there, and there are pulleys in there, and there are things I can't even describe. But I thought, okay, maybe I can fix this thing. But how am I going to get underneath it? So I gave up on the idea of trying to jack the thing up or lift it up with some bricks or some logs or anything else, and I decided it was time for plan B. So plan B was to drive over to my local small engine repair shop about 5 miles away. I mean, I could have driven the tractor because it was still drivable, but I would have probably been beeped at a lot and probably arrested by the local sheriff. And I could have called, but I just wanted to talk to the guy firsthand. And so I drove over to the shop about 5 miles away, and the owner happened to come out, and he said, you know, very nice guy, I've been there for years, he always fixed our stuff. He asked me what I needed, and I said about the lawnmower, and it was running fine, and this belt, I showed him this long belt. Seems to be fine, but I don't know where it goes, and I don't know how to get it back in there. So what I'm hoping he was going to say is, you know what, I'm going to send my guy out to look at it, and I bet he can fix it right on your property. And I thought that'd be great. Because for them to come get the mower, they charge money, and I understand that. They should. To bring it back, they charge money, and I understand that. If I were a real farmer, I would have a truck with a trailer, and I could haul it in, but I can't, and I don't. So he then started to quiz me on things I should know. And the first question was, well, where's the motor? Now I'm thinking, you know, I don't have the lawnmower with me, but I'm thinking, well, the motor is, I don't know where the motor is. Where can it be? He says, is it in the front or is it in the back? See if you can back this up and see a little bit better. Okay. Now, as I'm looking at it, it looks like the motor is in the front. So I'll tell him, I think it's in the front. He says, well, it could be in the back. I says, it can? It can be in the back? He says, well, it might be. I said, well, I know I put the gas in the back. And he said, well, that doesn't matter where the gas goes. I said, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I remember growing up, we had a Volkswagen and the engine was in the back, so why not this lawnmower? And if he says some lawnmowers have engines in the back, then maybe this motor is in the back. I don't know. So, of course, I'm looking very, very dumb. He's thinking I'm dumb. I am dumb, I admit it. I'm not a mechanic. I wish I could fix things. Usually when I try to fix anything, I make it worse. Usually it costs me 6 times more to fix the things I break. If I had just hired someone in the first place, I would have been better off. But you know, that's what this living in the country is going to help. I'm going to get more confident. Maybe, maybe not. But back to the story. I don't know where the engine is. So he said, well, where's the steering wheel? I says, well, it's hooked to the tractor. I says, I sit behind it. Does that help? He says, well, not really. So I said, well, okay, well, do you want me to go home and I'll go look where the motor is and I'll call you up? He says, no, it doesn't matter. I said, what? I didn't say to him what, but I mean, we'd had this 5-minute conversation making me look really stupid to find out that in the end, it really doesn't matter. And that's where this story is leading to an ending you're probably wondering. So I drove home a little bit dejected, feeling pretty dumb. That does not take a lot. And called up the guy that I had been using for cutting the grass when I was working full time and asked him could he come over and start cutting it again, and I told him my mower had to go into the shop. So I told the shop to come pick it up, and I knew that could be a couple weeks for them to get here, 3 weeks to check it over and order a part if they had to, another week to get everything put back together and get it back, and I needed the grass mowed. So the guy who helps me said sure enough. He was over there the next Saturday, and my luck started to change. He saw the mower sitting in my barn, you've seen the barn, and said, well, what's wrong with your mower? And so I said, well, it turns on and it drives, but I held up that humongous belt. He said, let me take a look. So he gets on his stomach and he looks beneath the mower deck. And he says, let me have that. Somehow or another, don't ask me how, I'm looking at it now, it's so low to the ground. He reaches underneath there and he moves it this way and he moves it that way and he pulls this and he pushes that. And in 10 minutes, that belt was back on the mower. We cranked it up, crossed my fingers, put it into gear, pulled the button that makes the blade start running, turning, and it was turning like it should. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, 10 minutes, you've done what it was going to take me 4 or 5 weeks to get fixed, and you didn't even make me feel bad about it. I was so appreciative. I said, what do I owe you? He said, nothing. Least I can do. And so, I'm not sure when that was. It was a year ago or more, and this mower is still working. Now, I'll be honest, I still have him cutting my grass every 2 weeks, but I still use this baby, this old snapper. We cut behind the barn, one little section, and I use it. I have a wagon that hooks to it, so I get to pretend like I'm hauling stuff, and I do haul stuff, mostly things I have to pick up off the ground. So, there are some lessons to be had, and I want to go over those with you. So there's a lot of wisdom behind this story, and hope I can impart some of that with you. First bit of wisdom is that there are people out there who know a whole lot more than you do, and especially more than I do. And I've been to college, and that means squat when it comes to fixing things like this mower. To me, those people are miracle workers, and they're happy to help. And so you need to be happy to accept their help. So I want to thank my friend. He didn't want to be mentioned on camera by name, but he still works with me, and I appreciate everything he's done for me. That's wisdom number 1. Wisdom number 2, when you do go to the repair shop, before you go, take a look at your lawnmower and figure out where the motor is. You will impress those people when they ask you, where's the motor? And you say, are you crazy? The motor's in front. Where did you expect? Maybe that's a trick question. Because maybe if you don't know that, they can charge you 3 times as much. Although that shop in town, I'm sure would be very honest with me. I've taken things there for years. So be prepared when you go to the shop. Wisdom part 3. I've already hinted at this. Accept the kindness of others. Be gracious. Offer to pay. He didn't He didn't charge me anything. I would have gladly paid way more than I'm sure he would have ever even thought of. So be that kind of person yourself. And part number 4 of this wisdom, maybe even part 5, use common sense. Yeah, certainly know where the motor is. You would think anyone would know that. But do wear ear protection. But that's not even the common sense part. Before you put these on your head and over your ears, make sure there's not a wasp inside or a spider making a nest. Been there, done that. And finally, if you're not sure if your lawnmower or your tractor has gas, do not light a match to look inside the gas tank. I'm not a philosopher, but hope you've gotten a little wisdom out of this episode I shared with you today. There's a lot you can learn by asking, and I have a lot of asking to do. I'm Mark, and this is The Country Life with ColumbusMark. Don't forget to subscribe and share with others. Thanks a lot. Signing off.